A 21-year-old Tay leaves Myanmar in hopes of finding a better life for himself in Thailand. According to CNN on March 6, 2014, Tay had hoped to be smuggled across the border by labor brokers. He was promised a safe and stable job at the end. He was going to work at a pineapple factory where he would make enough money to pay back the individual who helped him across the border. But instead of receiving what he was promised, Tay and 12 others given similar promises found themselves victims to modern-day slavery. For each of these individuals, they were sold for $420 each into slave labor. For Tay, that meant being taken on board a fishing boat and being forced to work without any compensation. Despite having no previous experience on a boat, he was expected to work properly and was beaten when he did not. But Tay's story does not stand alone. Many others have reflected on the brutal conditions of being a slave on board fishing boats. The Environmental Justice Foundation explains that while the size of this problem is unknown, many survivors have reported witnessing and experiencing similar hardships and have even witnessed murders. The Labor Rights Promotion Network estimates 3,000 slaves on board fish. Others, such as the Thai government, estimate 145,000 working in the fishing industry, with 80% of them being migrant workers. While the Ras Thai Foundation activist groups suggest that the real numbers are closer to 200,000 trafficked workers. So what is driving this market? According to a May 15, 2015 AP investigation, the United States was found to be the largest consumer of this seafood, much of it being the backbone for our cat, dog, and livestock feed. The average pet cat in the United States consumes 30 pounds of fish per year. It's double what the typical American consumes. So considering that this issue is invisible but can be solved, it's imperative to discuss why these issues are occurring, why we continue to ignore these serious issues, and finally explore solutions, because it's time to end this modern-day horror story. The United Nations estimates that there are 43 million commercial fishers supporting 520 million people, or 7.3% of the population. Unfortunately, most of the horrors happening at sea are unknown to most. Therefore, we have two problems. One, modern slavery is the backbone for the commercial fishing industry, and two, illegal poaching by fisheries is rampant. First, the Thai fishing industry is one of the world's worst culprits for human trafficking. While no concrete numbers exist, a 2014 Guardian investigation, a 2015 AP report, and a 2015 New York Times investigative series found a large labor rights problem impacting a large number of men who are bought and sold like animals and held against their will. Many of these victims, like Tay, come from places like Cambodia and Myanmar. Those who managed to escape tell being tricked into crossing the border by labor brokers, promising gainful employment, and instead receive horrific working conditions, including 20-hour working shifts, regular beatings, torture, and execution-style killings. Unfortunately, these fishing boats are essential to the production of farmed shrimp sold in leading supermarkets around the world like Costco and Walmart. So not only is seafood concerning, but according to the United States Customs documents, the fish found in cat, dog, and livestock feed are bound to slavery. And second, we live in an age of both rampant overfishing and widespread inequality that continues to divide the world's populations. According to the Huffington Post on September 28, 2015, it explains that the overfishing is at critical levels and shows no signs of stopping. Massive companies and countries are taking advantage of inequality. For instance, China's ships across the globe are catching 12 times what they are reporting to the United Nations. Wealthier countries are fishing in waters outside their jurisdiction and illegally harvesting the fish. Consequently, developing countries are losing their income as their fishing stocks are depleted, and they are often forced into illegal fishing themselves. Or worse, poor nations turn to crime. Remember the infamous Somali pirates? These were once fishermen who ran out of fish because their fisheries were poached by wealthier nations. So not only is overfishing harmful to the balance of ocean life, but it deepens the economic disparities between rich and poor nations. There's about 140 million square miles of open ocean, and Mark Young, a retired United States Coast Guard commander and former chief of enforcement for the Pacific Ocean, tells the New York Times the ocean is like a Wild West. Weak rules, few sheriffs, and lots of outlaws. Therefore, there are two causes. One, the ocean is everyone's and no one's, and two, it's the key to making money. So first, the sea is a big free-for-all. According to the New York Times of July 23, 2015, cite maritime experts who argue that 99% of the crimes committed at sea, everything from murders to slavery to kidnapping to thievery, go unprosecuted and barely noted, because there are no rules or guidelines. And with this ideology comes criminal behavior. The word illegal does not exist in a place where there are no laws. Murders, slavery, and other acts considered illegal on land are fair game in the ocean. Less than 1% of our high seas are protected, and even with that, every country's laws only apply 12 miles off their coast, which has, according to NPR of July 28, 2015, made the ocean the last wild frontier. And second, the reality of today's global economy perpetuates a lawless ocean. PBS of July 28, 2015 explains how it is easy to overlook how dependent our lives and the entire global economy has become on shipping and the sea. Today, several million ships carry roughly 90% of the world's goods. Our desire for cheap products, everything from iPhone cases to cat food to clothing, allows industries to slash costs by cutting economic corners and ignoring human rights. Specifically regarding fish, the South Morning Post of March 15, 2015 explains that the pathways between the ocean to your dinner plate are rarely linear. Instead, fishing companies, transportation firms, processing plants, exporters, and distributors form a complex web, making it difficult to understand just how that $12 bag of fish found its way to our Walmart. The Guardian of June 10, 2014 explains that today's sea slaves cost 95% less than slaves did at the height of the 19th century, making their economic value worth less than the fish they catch. Clearly, something must be done. To bring law and order back to the high seas, the United Nations, industries, and each of us must act. The United Nations, according to EcoWatch of September 25, 2015, has shown a commitment in improving their safety and environmental regulations by adopting the Port Seas Measures Agreement. This treaty will cost-effectively support port inspection standards while requiring boats to adhere to labor standards and fishing. This pact will take effect once 25 governments have ratified it. To date, 14 have done so. Therefore, the United Nations must make it a top priority. And target the countries who have yet to sign. Second, the New York Times of July 23, 2015 explained that until government oversight and regulations are sufficient, ship owners and seafood companies must ensure an ethical and sustainable industry. They must take responsibility for their supply chains in order to protect their workers, our oceans, and their own livelihoods. The United States is the largest consumer for canned tuna, and therefore seafood buyers such as Bumblebee, Chicken of the Sea, and Starkist must improve their traceability systems to be able to track their products from bait to plate, and they must ensure audits are done to allow that these practices are being implemented in their supply chains. And personally, each of us as consumers have a responsibility to hold the seafood industry accountable. If your pet food contains fish meal or fish oil, then it very likely came from Thailand, where slave labor is prominent. NPR of March 27, 2015 reminds us that labels such as Iams, Meow Mix, and Fancy Feast have been linked to slave labor. Do not buy these. In addition, for those who are seafood lovers out there, seafood sold at Kroger, Walmart, Costco, Safeway, and Albertsons have been caught by slaves. To adhere to these issues, we should ask and purchase United States caught and raised fish. Not only will these practices ensure clean fish, but they will avoid the possibility of inadvertently helping slavery, support sustainable fishing practices, eliminate the risk of illegal activity, and help American fishers. Today, we have identified lawless acts in the sea, explored why these are happening, and offered solutions to help regulate this territory. 1 in 5 fish caught in the sea are caught illegally and most likely by slaves. Martha Mendoza, an AP national writer, tells CNN that each of us has the ability to have an impact on these conditions. Therefore, it is only through our actions that we can stop the horrors happening at sea.